Adulthood has arrived, and with it, time has become shorter and shorter. That 100-hour RPG that once seemed manageable now just feels exhausting. These days, what we want is to turn on the console, play for a bit, and feel it was worth it. That's why this list is for those who still love games but need to balance work, routine, and that single free hour at the end of the day. Short, intense games, perfect to finish without guilt. Before we start, drop a comment. What was the last game you managed to finish, even with little free time? And if you can, give us that boost, subscribe to the channel. Every new sub helps keep this project alive and allows us to bring more lists like this. Now put on your headphones, relax, and let's dive into short single-player games that deliver everything without wasting your time. Still Wakes the Deep is the kind of game that turns silence into terror. You're trapped on an isolated oil platform, surrounded by cold, wind, and something that should never be there. The story is intense, claustrophobic, and told with a growing pace that grips you from the very first step. Isolation, distant sounds, and the fear of the unknown create a constant suspense. It's the kind of narrative that doesn't need to scream to leave you panicked. Gameplay focuses on survival and psychological tension. There are no weapons, just quick decisions and instinct. You'll have to run, hide, and find escape routes while the place crumbles around you. Every corridor is a risk, every noise a warning that something is too close. The game makes you feel vulnerable, and that's what makes it so real. The urgency never disappears, even when it seems safe. What's most striking is the pacing. There's no filler. Every minute is there to make you more uncomfortable. The fear comes from waiting, from metallic echoes in the dark, from what might be behind the next door. That constant sense of helplessness never lets go, and the environment feels alive, reacting to every move. It's smart horror, preferring suggestion over exposure. Still Wakes the Deep is tense, direct, and unforgettable, a perfect game for anyone who wants fear without needing hours to figure out what's happening. It pulls you in quickly, suffocates you, and ends before you can even catch your breath. Few games manage to achieve so much in so little time, and this one does it flawlessly. Katana Zero is pure adrenaline condensed into rhythm and blade. The story follows a killer living between dreams, drugs, and twisted visions, unsure of what's real. Each mission is a piece of a psychological puzzle full of twists. The plot is fragmented, but it keeps you wanting to understand every detail. It's a narrative about violence, trauma, and the cost of losing control. Gameplay is a spectacle of precision and speed. Everything happens in seconds. A strike, a dodge, a kill. You control time, turning every stage into a choreography of hits and failures. Dead? Try again. The game is unforgiving but fair, constantly pushing you to improve until you pull off the perfect move. It's brutal yet elegant, with an addictive rhythm. The most fascinating part is the contrast between action and introspection. Between missions, the game forces you to pause, breathe, and face the weight of what you've just done. Conversations are tense, and the character's mind feels like it's breaking apart with each new memory. This duality turns an action game into something far deeper. Katana Zero is fast, intense, and sharp. It hooks you with combat and crushes you with story. A game tailored for those with little time but who want to feel everything adrenaline, mystery, and emotion. In just a few hours, it delivers one of the most memorable journeys the genre has ever seen. Vanquish is pure action, no time to breathe. The story throws you into a futuristic war with a soldier equipped with an experimental suit that turns any battlefield into controlled chaos. From the first shot, the pace is insane. Everything explodes, moves, and shifts non-stop. It's the kind of game that throws you straight into the fire and doesn't let go until the last enemy falls. The gameplay is the highlight, a mix of tactical shooting and absurd speed. You slide, slow time, and fire with pinpoint precision as the entire environment collapses around you. Every weapon has personality, and every fight becomes a dance between reflex and strategy. It challenges you to be creative amid destruction, and that sense of control is addictive. What makes Vanquish so great is how it never lets you rest. The campaign is short, but every second is packed with maximum intensity. Boss fights are spectacular, demanding precision and courage in equal measure. It understands that fun comes from rhythm, delivering an unbroken spectacle of action. It's pure energy turned into gameplay. Vanquish is the kind of game you finish and instantly want to replay, just to be faster, sharper, more aggressive. It doesn't need speeches, only movement and impact. A short, direct, explosive title that proves action can be art when crafted with purpose. A true modern classic of chaos. SOMA is a game that prefers to make you think rather than simply scare you. The story places you in an abandoned underwater facility where the lines between consciousness, body, and machine begin to blur. Mystery grows with every room explored, and the questions get heavier. Who are you? what is real, and what happens when humanity no longer means being human. Gameplay blends exploration and psychological tension at a steady pace. There are no weapons, only fear and the need to move forward. You'll have to understand the environment, solve small puzzles, and avoid creatures that react to sound and light. The horror doesn't come from jump scares, but from the constant sense of helplessness. Every step feels like going deeper into something you shouldn't uncover. What makes SOMA brilliant is how it turns philosophy into fear. The game touches on identity, memory, and consciousness without over-explaining. Everything is revealed at just the right pace, and the silence between dialogues weighs as much as the answers. It's a rare kind of horror, one that disturbs more with ideas than with images. SOMA is short but leaves a huge void once it ends. It makes you question what it means to exist, to feel, and what remains when everything is gone. A game that proves the deepest horror doesn't come from monsters, it comes from ourselves. Intense, thought-provoking, and impossible to forget, it's one of the most human stories ever told in a world without humanity. Metal Gear Rising is the pure definition of over-the-top action and style. Forget stealth, here it's all about speed, blades, and absolute chaos. The story revolves around ideological clashes and humans who have lost control of their own morality. It's a plot packed with impactful lines, epic battles, and insane moments. The game doesn't aim for realism, it aims to be unforgettable, and it nails it effortlessly. Gameplay is fast, precise, and incredibly satisfying. Every sword strike is a show on its own, and the free cutting system lets you slice through everything with surgical accuracy. The sense of mastering the moves is insane, and boss battles are simply legendary. Each fight feels like the finale of an anime, with soundtrack, intensity, and perfect rhythm. It's the kind of game that gives you chills with every clean hit. What makes Metal Gear Rising so addictive is the balance between chaos and control. The game pushes you to the limit constantly, but gives you the tools to shine under pressure. Enemies are brutal, and the difficulty forces you to learn every pattern until perfection. When it all clicks, it's pure symphony of destruction. A spectacle that makes you feel invincible for a few seconds. Metal Gear Rising is short but bursts with energy from start to finish. It doesn't ask for your time, it throws you into madness and leaves you there until nothing is left. One of the most intense and charismatic games ever made, understanding that fun is rhythm, impact, and exaggeration. A true action showpiece still remembered by anyone who knows the value of a sharp blade. The Vanishing of Ethan Carter is a mystery wrapped in melancholy. You take on the role of a paranormal investigator arriving in a small town in search of a missing boy. But the deeper you look, the more the world begins to blur between dream and reality. The story is sad, introspective, and layered, revealing secrets that speak more about pain than crime. Gameplay focuses on exploration and deduction. You investigate tragic scenes, connect clues, and reconstruct events through your ability to sense the unseen. There's no combat, only observation and interpretation. Each discovery brings you closer to a truth that feels worse than any lie. It's a slow-paced but rewarding game, built for those who enjoy immersing themselves in dense, mysterious atmospheres. What makes Ethan Carter so striking is how it blends the supernatural with the emotional. The boy's disappearance is just the starting point for something much deeper. The story speaks of regret, loss, and imagination as a form of refuge. It's subtle but powerful, and the constant silence makes each revelation weigh even more heavily. The Vanishing of Ethan Carter is short but unforgettable. It doesn't try to impress you with scares, but with meaning. Every place you visit carries a story. Every memory found holds weight. It's a game about understanding what was lost and accepting what remains. A mystery that holds you not for the answer, but for the journey toward it. Outlast is raw horror, unfiltered and merciless. The story places you in the shoes of a journalist breaking into an abandoned psychiatric hospital to investigate secret experiments. What starts as reporting turns into a nightmare where the only rule is survival. Everything unfolds with a growing panic, the kind of fear that never lets up for even a second. Gameplay is simple but relentless. You don't fight, you just run, hide, and pray not to be found. The camera becomes your only ally, lighting up things you'd rather not see. The game creates tension through helplessness, making you feel truly vulnerable. Every hallway is a nerve test, and the sound of enemy footsteps is enough to freeze your blood. The most terrifying part is how Outlast understands psychological fear. It's not about monsters, it's about waiting, the creak of a door, the sound of breathing in the dark. Darkness becomes a prison, paranoia a constant companion. It puts you in situations that feel far too real, where fear doesn't just come from the game, but from what your mind imagines in silence. Outlast is short, sharp, and unforgettable. One of the most intense horror titles ever created, leaving you drained when it ends. It proves true fear doesn't need weapons, only vulnerability. And when the credits roll, you realize you've spent the entire time barely breathing. Bright Memory Infinite is action at full throttle, the kind of game that doesn't give you a second to blink. The story blends sci-fi and mythology, serving as a backdrop for pure stylized destruction. Within minutes, you're already battling human soldiers and supernatural creatures using guns, blades, and powers. It's a roller coaster of adrenaline that never slows down. Gameplay is the real showpiece. It combines first-person shooting with melee combat at a breakneck pace. Everything feels fluid, precise, and impactful. You seamlessly switch between firing, slashing, and unleashing special abilities, creating action sequences that play like choreography. The runtime is short, but every second is intense enough to satisfy any action fan. What stands out most is how much the game delivers in so little time. It doesn't try to be massive, it focuses on impressing you at every turn. Fights are cinematic, putting you right at the center of chaos. With each new enemy, there's a new way to test reflexes and creativity. It's all about style and rhythm.
Bright Memory Infinite feels like an action movie condensed into a few hours. Pure energy, with insane pacing that makes you lose track of time. Perfect for anyone wanting something fast, intense, and impactful, without filler. A game that proves short, can still be grand, and fun can be immediate.
Gris is a game about loss and emotional rebuilding. The story follows a young woman crossing a collapsing world, where every step represents a stage of acceptance. There's no dialogue, only symbolism and feelings conveyed through the environment and journey. Everything connects delicately, turning pain into movement. It's the kind of narrative that speaks more through silence than words. Gameplay is simple but full of purpose. You explore, overcome obstacles, and unlock new abilities that change how you perceive the world. Every challenge is a metaphor, and each achievement feels like a small healing step. The pace is gentle yet steady, guiding you without rush. It's easy to grasp but hard to forget, a short journey with immense emotional weight. What makes Gris so special is how it treats fragility as strength. Instead of punishing you, the game embraces you, makes you reflect, and pushes you forward. Progress is emotional, not technical, and that sets it apart completely. It values pause and contemplation, using every detail to tell a story of resilience. Gris is brief but powerful. It doesn't demand time, only attention and sensitivity. In just a few hours, it conveys what many long games never achieve: hope. A reminder that even what seems broken can bloom again. It's poetry turned into interactivity, simple, moving, unforgettable. What Remains of Edith Finch is one of the most creative and emotional stories ever brought to games. You explore an old house filled with memories and family secrets, reliving the final moments of each relative through small interactive stories. Every room is a memory, and every memory reveals something about life, loss, and fate. It's a game about accepting the end while learning to cherish what came before. Gameplay unfolds as a sequence of micro-stories, each with unique mechanics. One moment you're controlling a child imagining adventures. The next, you're living the routine of an adult escaping monotony. The style shifts constantly without breaking rhythm. Each tale feels distinct yet part of a larger whole, a family that learned to live alongside tragedy. What's most impressive is the sensitivity with which everything is told. There's no forced drama, just humanity in its rawest form. The stories are short but impactful, each leaving an emotional scar. The way the game balances lightness and sadness is rare. It's the kind of narrative that makes you reflect on your own life without noticing. What Remains of Edith Finch is simple yet profound, a game that doesn't need hours to touch you. A single chapter is enough to feel its weight. It shows that endings can be beautiful, and that every memory, even painful ones, is a celebration of existence. One of the best examples of how emotion and interactivity can walk hand in hand. Spec Ops, the line looks like a regular shooter, but it quickly shows it's much more than that. The story begins with a military mission in a devastated city, but as it goes on, the game reveals the real enemy, the human being. It's a heavy narrative that questions morality, obedience, and the impact of war on the mind. Nothing is simple, and every choice feels wrong on purpose. Gameplay mixes intense action with moments of psychological discomfort. The battles are brutal and straightforward, but the game constantly makes you rethink the reason behind every shot. Orders blur with madness, and the setting grows more oppressive. With each encounter, the line between right and wrong disappears. It's a game that uses its own violence to make you reflect on it. What makes Spec Ops so impactful is the courage to put you in the villain's role without you realizing it. It doesn't want you to win, it wants you to think. The tension rises not from difficulty, but from the discomfort of facing what you're doing. It's an experience that breaks expectations and hits the emotions of anyone who truly plays it. Spec Ops. The line is short but devastating. It starts as a shooter and ends as a mirror. One of the rare games that uses action to tell something profound, showing that sometimes the horror isn't in the enemies, but in your own choices. A must-play for anyone who thinks they know what a war game really means. Undertale is strange, funny, and incredibly emotional. The story starts simple. A child falls into a world inhabited by monsters, but what seems like a light adventure soon becomes something much deeper. The game plays with expectations, breaks the fourth wall, and makes you rethink what it means to win. Everything is about empathy, choices, and their consequences. Gameplay is unique. You can fight, talk, or even forgive your enemies, and each decision completely changes the course of the story. There isn't a right path, only the reflection of what you choose to do. Battles are creative, demanding quick reflexes and emotional attention. The game constantly surprises you, reacting to your actions in unpredictable ways. What's most fascinating about Undertale is how it builds bonds with the player. You start laughing and end up reflecting, because every choice carries real emotional weight. The game remembers everything you do and makes you feel responsible for the outcome. That feeling of being watched and judged is what makes it so unforgettable. Undertale is small but has a huge heart. A game that blends humor and pain, lightness and depth like few others. It doesn't try to be epic, just sincere. And maybe that's why it works so well. A simple journey that proves emotion doesn't depend on graphics or length, but on meaning. Firewatch is the kind of game that holds you through solitude. The story places you in a watchtower deep in an isolated forest, where your only human contact comes through a radio. At first, everything seems calm, until small things start to go wrong. It's a narrative about escape, regret, and the quiet ways isolation finds to test you. Simple, yet full of meaning. Gameplay focuses on exploration and dialogue. You walk, investigate, and talk, slowly building a relationship with the voice on the other end. Choices don't change the destination, but they shape the tone of the journey. The game understands that drama lives in pauses, in silence, in unanswered questions. It's slow, but deliberately every minute is part of the immersion. What makes Firewatch special is how it makes you feel alone and accompanied at the same time. The forest is beautiful and suffocating, and the feeling of being watched grows with the tension. The game speaks about guilt and connection in a human, grounded way. You're not a hero, just someone trying to escape yourself in a place that seems to know you too well. Firewatch is short, direct, and unforgettable. It grips you through dialogue, envelops you with atmosphere, and marks you by what it doesn't say. It's about loneliness, but also about the comfort of knowing someone's listening, even from a distance. A simple game that proves emotion can be born from the quietest conversations. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons is a short story loaded with emotion and meaning. Two brothers set out on a journey to save their sick father, facing dangers and discovering the weight of loss and courage. The game doesn't need dialogue to pull you in. It communicates everything with gestures, expressions, and moments of pure connection. It's about family bonds, growing up, and what it means to rely on someone. Every scene feels crafted to move you quietly, yet deeply. Gameplay is the heart of the experience. You control both brothers at once, one on each stick, and must coordinate their movements to solve challenges. This simple mechanic creates a sense of unity that goes far beyond control. Every obstacle reinforces their bond, and when the story shifts that balance, the impact is devastating. It's a game that speaks through its own mechanics, and that makes it unique. What impresses most is how intentional everything is. The silence weighs, the rhythm is delicate, and emotions surface naturally. There's no rush, only the constant feeling of taking part in something sincere. The journey is short, but enough to make you feel every step. The game teaches you, connects you, and then breaks you in a way that feels personal. Everything is about growth and acceptance. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons is unforgettable because it understands the power of simplicity. It shows that emotion doesn't need words, only purpose. A small title with enormous emotional force, capable of staying with you forever. It's about love, loss, and what remains when the journey ends. And even after the credits, you keep thinking about it. To the Moon is one of the most moving stories ever told in games. Two scientists enter the memories of a dying man to fulfill his last wish to go to the moon. But as they sift through his past, they realize there's much more pain, regret, and love than they imagined. It's a narrative about what truly matters when time is running out. Every memory is a piece of an emotional puzzle that only makes sense at the end. Gameplay is simple but effective. You explore the protagonist's memories, link objects, and watch how they distort between past and present. The focus is entirely on the narrative, and that's what makes the game so powerful. There's no rush, only the curiosity to understand what led that man to wish for something so symbolic. With each new memory, the impact grows, pulling you deeper into the story. What makes To the Moon unforgettable is the sensitivity with which it tackles universal themes. It speaks about love, loss, and regret in a human way, without exaggeration. Everything is built with care, and the emotional connection arises naturally. There's weight in every decision, and when the truth surfaces, the hit is direct. It's impossible not to feel empathy and see yourself somewhere in that story. To the Moon is short, but carries more emotion than many long games. It makes you laugh, cry, and think, all in a few hours. A reminder that the truest feelings don't need graphics or action to resonate. It's a game about dreams, memories, and what it means to be human. Simple, beautiful, and impossible to forget. The Stanley Parable is a trip about control, routine, and free will, or the lack of it. You are Stanley, a man stuck in an empty office, guided by a voice that comments on your every move. The fun lies in defying that narration, making wrong choices, and discovering how many absurd paths the game hides. It's a story about decisions, but also a provocation about what it really means to choose. Every route feels like a joke and a critique at the same time. Gameplay is simple but brilliant. You only walk, interact with doors and buttons, and everything changes depending on how much you obey or disobey the narrator. Every detour triggers a new reaction, sometimes hilarious, sometimes disturbing. The game constantly toys with the player, breaking the fourth wall without mercy. It knows you'll try to cheat the rules, and it rewards or punishes you in unpredictable ways. The most incredible thing is how the Stanley Parable blends humor with philosophy. It makes you laugh and think at the same time, questioning the player's role inside a game. The narrator's lines are sharp, sarcastic, and full of double meanings. Everything is designed to make you feel in control, only to realize you may never have been. It's confusing, funny, and deeply clever. The Stanley Parable is short but inexhaustible. Even after finishing, you'll want to test new possibilities, hear new provocations, and uncover new absurdities. It's a unique experience that turns the simple act of walking into a reflection on freedom, a reminder that sometimes the best game is the one that laughs at the very idea of playing. A short hike is the kind of game that wins you over with simplicity and warmth. You control a young traveler on a small island, trying to reach the top of a mountain while meeting, helping, and chatting with others along the way. There's no rush, no danger, no urgency, only curiosity. The story is about slowing down and realizing the journey can matter more than the destination. Cozy, funny, and filled with small moments that make you smile. Gameplay is pure freedom. You can climb, glide, fish, or simply chat with characters scattered across the island. Everything flows naturally, and the game never forces you down a path. It's the kind of adventure that lets you set your own pace, and every new interaction brings a different surprise. Progression feels light and organic, like a real stroll. What makes a short hike so charming is how human it feels. Conversations are simple, but full of empathy. The characters have their own worries, and the game makes you feel part of that little world for a few hours. It's about slowing down and finding value in small things, in dialogue, short flights, and pauses between goals. A short hike is short but soulful. It doesn't try to impress, only remind you of the joy of playing for the sake of play. A perfect title for anyone wanting something light, positive, and comforting. A subtle reminder that sometimes the best part of the journey is when you forget you're trying to reach anywhere at all. Transistor is an elegant mix of sci-fi and melancholy. The story follows a woman in a futuristic city who finds a mysterious sword capable of speaking and fighting at her side. The plot is layered, slowly revealing what really happened and who is behind the chaos consuming the place. It's a narrative about loss, memory, and the weight of carrying too much power, intimate and epic at the same time. Gameplay is a brilliant blend of strategy and action. You can fight in real time or freeze time to plan your moves with precision. Each ability comes from defeated enemies, letting you create unique combinations. Battles are fast but full of possibilities, with every encounter feeling like a tactical puzzle. Intense, yet clever, it gives you the sense of total control in combat. What stands out is the emotional tone guiding everything. The game doesn't push urgency but curiosity and feeling. Each step uncovers fragments of a tragic past, and every fight seems to hold meaning beyond the battle itself. The bond between the heroine and the sword carries the heart of the story, giving victories weight and losses silence. Transistor is short but incredibly memorable, a game that blends style and emotion seamlessly without excess. It grips through strategy but stays in memory through atmosphere and story, perfect for anyone who wants intensity without dozens of hours. Direct, engaging, and unforgettable from start to finish. Kentucky Route Zero is one of those games that feels like a strange dream, calm, melancholic, and full of meaning. The story follows a delivery driver trying to complete his last job, but the journey turns surreal. Every encounter brings eccentric characters blending reality, magic, and poetry in subtle doses. It's a narrative about debt, loss, and the weight of time, told in a way only games can. Nothing is straightforward, yet everything makes sense in its own way. Gameplay is simple, centered on dialogue choices and exploration. You decide what to say, where to go, and what to observe, shaping the tone of the story as you move along. There's no combat or complex puzzles, just conversations, roads, and reflection. The slow pace is part of the charm, letting every moment breathe. It's a game that values silence, pause, and personal interpretation. What fascinates most about Kentucky Route Zero is how much it feels like interactive theater. Every scene plays like an act, full of symbolism and hidden messages. The game makes you reflect on work, forgetting, and the absurdity of modern life, without forcing conclusions. It wants you to think, to feel, and to fill the gaps with your own experiences. It's art that speaks directly to the player. Kentucky Route Zero is short but leaves a deep mark, a game about roads, choices, and what we find when the path ends. It shows you don't need to understand everything to be moved. Sometimes it's enough to listen. One of those titles that lingers in your mind, resurfacing days after you've finished. Gone Home is an intimate mystery told beautifully. You return home after some time away and find it empty. With no one around, the only way to understand what happened is to explore and piece the story together from small details. Every note, tape, and object has something to say. It begins with a sense of suspense, but soon reveals itself as a real, human, and emotional story. Gameplay is based on free exploration. You walk through the house, open drawers, switch on lights, and uncover secrets hidden in each room. The game never guides you. It trusts curiosity to lead you to the heart of the story. Slowly, what seemed like a simple disappearance becomes something far more personal. It's a plot that grows steadily, rewarding those who pay attention. What makes Gone Home work so well is its naturalness. Nothing feels forced, and every discovery is like an intimate conversation with the past. The story speaks about love, acceptance, and the struggle of being yourself in a world that doesn't always understand. There are no enemies, only memories, and that's enough to completely grip you. It turns the ordinary into something deeply touching. Gone Home is short but full of feeling. It shows how a simple setting can hold an entire story if told well. A game about returning, growing, and the invisible ties that still bind us to those we love. One of those stories that ends softly but keeps echoing long after the screen goes dark. Oxenfree is a game about mystery, friendship, and the kind of fear that comes when the past starts mixing with the present. The story begins with a group of teenagers on an isolated island for what should be a normal night, until something strange happens. A rift opens in the air and time begins to distort. The narrative is full of natural dialogue and tense moments where every choice can change the outcome. Supernatural, yet deeply human at its core. Gameplay revolves around conversations and decisions. You walk across the island, explore ruins, and try to understand what's happening as time bends around you. The dialogue system is fluid and constant, answers appear in real time, and silence itself is a choice. Every line spoken or left unsaid changes relationships and shapes the ending. It's light to play but emotionally heavy. What's most impressive about Oxenfree is how it uses the supernatural to talk about guilt and reconciliation. The ghosts you encounter aren't just scary entities, they're memories, regrets, and echoes of the past. The atmosphere is eerie and melancholic, but also full of curiosity. It always feels like something bigger is about to happen, even in stillness. Oxenfree is short but unforgettable. It weaves mystery and emotion in a way few games manage, a title that holds you through tension but marks you through feeling. Every conversation, every sound, every pause carries meaning, and when it ends, you're left with the sense the island still hides secrets, and maybe in some way you're still there too. Tell me in the comments, which of these games saved you when time was short but the will to play was huge? And if you enjoyed the video, drop a like and subscribe. It helps a lot to keep this project alive and bring more lists for those who love games but don't have time to waste. To keep the vibe going, check out the video popping up on the side with more amazing games that fit right into your day. Have a great game and see you tomorrow.